Welcome, and thank you for attending this session of Lexbe's eDiscovery webinar series, Affordable Hosting Alternatives for Summation and Concordance Productions, presented by Lexbe Principal Gene Albert. Our eDiscovery webinar series takes place once a month, and we cover a wide variety of relevant issues related to litigation, technology, and legal data management. Our webinar today should last about 30 minutes, and we'll have a URL to access a recorded version of the presentation available to anyone who registered later this week, or anyone who needs to leave early due to our technical difficulties we experienced here at the beginning. Just to give you a brief overview of our focus here at Lexbe, we develop technology that helps legal professionals meet discovery deadlines. We offer high-speed ESI processing and conversion services in addition to Lexbe eDiscovery platform. Our full-featured case management application that includes self-serve processing functionality with the ability to upload and process up to 10 gigabytes of your own case data per day from any location. If during our webinar there are any questions that you have or any technical issues being experienced, please email them to me at webinars@lexbe.com. We'll answer all of the questions we can, but if we run out of time, we'll be sure to follow up via email. Before I turn things over, let me tell you a little bit about Gene. As I'd mentioned, Gene is a principal and co-founder at Lexbe. He has worked as in-house counsel as well as in private practice. Gene also has experience leading ventures in medical services, software, and web-based businesses. Gene received his JD from Southern Methodist University and his MBA from the University of Texas at Austin. With that, here's Gene.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Sorry again about the technical delays. That was a bad time to have computer crash, but they come up a lot quicker than they used to. We're going to be talking today about cost-effectively reviewing TIFF productions. And these, I'm sure a lot of you have experience with these. Some of you may not. They're a strange beast the first time you see them because they come in as single-page TIFFs, which are common in the legal industry, that are images that we'll get into a little bit more. And instead of having the entire documents joined, they're one document per or one page per document. Text files are separate, and then there's a thing called a load file that ties it all together and puts in metadata. What we'll talk about today are what are the TIFF productions in some more detail, and what are the standard concordance and summation formats which are used in the industry to move data around. How you can access native, and native refers to email, Word documents, Excel documents, anything that you work with in the same way that person using it would have worked with it, and PDF versions of documents in these TIFF productions, which are helpful to use. Different alternatives on hosting, security and cost consideration, load file validation, and loading your data, getting your best search out of these productions, how to view and code the documents, and we'll talk some about fact and issue mapping and depots, motion practice. We will jump into things here. As Stu mentioned, please send any questions an hour later, and we'll be happy to answer them. What are TIFF productions and load files? So these are documents that have been converted into TIFFs, which is the same format that's used for faxes. That's been around for years, and they're usually single-paged, and they can be converted from native or scanned. And this is a traditional review format, and it predates PDF and has been used in litigation database systems since the 90s. It's having things in this format are required on some platforms, review platforms, and other platforms it's optional. They can documents can come in different ways. There's some disadvantages of them too. They're cumbersome in that you need to be looking at them within a review system or specialty tools. You can't just open one up and work with it very easily like you can with the PDF or the native. They can also make the files very large compared to an original file. If you had a megabyte of files, could turn into 3 or 4 with TIFFs pretty easily. TIFFing also can lose color sometimes depending on how it's processed, and some other data as it makes the TIFF image to be able to look at. compared to what could be seen with the natives. The TIFFs will come with what's called a load file, and this is particular to the legal industry, and this is a type of structured text or database file that references the pages that make up the TIFF productions and shows where document breaks are, and it also brings in other metadata like the last time a file was saved and when it was created, and it pulls this all together and is read into the litigation database, and that allows you to view these TIFF images as a complete document. These load files may also include email family associations so that you can see how attachments of emails are associated back with the email body. It may also map into different versions of files that you may sometimes have some or all the natives may come in with it. There are a number of different formats in use that you'll see when you get a production. One is called a DAT file, DAT, and this is the extension that would come, and it's this is used in concordance, ringtail relativity, and a number of other ones. And there's another format called DII that's used in summation. Summation and concordance were the original litigation database programs that were developed back in the 90s. So their formats became general ones that are used by programs to exchange information back and forth. There are other ones out there. We have we read the other ones. Can you import the other ones? But we also have an Excel one, and that's the same information. Here's an example of what a load file looks like in Excel, which is our format. So up at the top, this is from an email, and there's different metadata associated with the email. So that would include who the sender, who it's to, date, time, subject, etc. And then this information is extracted by the computer on load, and then when it goes in, it's mapped into the database. So you can see the different information that's there. So the Bates number, Enron 01, shows up at the beginning of the doc, and the other fields are attachment, date, time, sent, received. This is all the information that the system has access to make document review more efficient. Now, this next one is the summation load file, DII. This is the same information as the last one, but it's in a format that uses what's called tokens. So there's a text file, but this is a way of delimiting database records. So you can see one of these, and this one on the right is showing the record. It's showing all the pages that are within it. So it's going from Enron 5 to 12. Those are the pages of the document, and that's a primary purpose of a load file for TIFF documents is to bring the pages of the TIFF production into documents, and you review a document at a time, not a page at a time. The next one is concordance load file, DAT, and there's we call it a DAT and an opticon file. And these are, if you ever open one of these are much more difficult to read because they're delimited with some unusual characters. But the same information is there, and some that's highlighted. And different systems can work with these. And when you get a production from somebody that has had a TIFF production, then these load files should be on one or more of the disks that would associate with the files. One question that comes up is how to access natives or PDFs when you have a production like this, and there's a couple different options. What's happening more and more is that multiple formats will be delivered with the load file. So on somebody that's using a TIFF-based system, the load files the production will come in TIFFs and text files that go along with that to make it searchable, but there will also be some or all of the natives along with it, and they'll be mapped in and will be accessible in various formats depending on the system. And this is helpful because some things don't transfer very well into the TIFF or PDF or any paginated image of it because they weren't really made for printing, or there may be some information that's hidden or something that wouldn't come out on a print. Notorious for this are Excel files, which aren't really made to print, so some of those look just terrible and are difficult to work with once they've been gone into TIFF or PDF for that matter. So people want to have the natives and be able to look at the natives as well, the original versions of the Excel. This slide goes over just different hosting and review alternatives when you get one of these. And the basic options are doing it with installed software that you have inside your firm or using web-based hosting. And there's pluses and minuses of these, like anything that's in the cloud or not. With the installed software, you purchase, install, and support it in-house. And this will be specialty software that supports TIFFs. With web-based hosting, you would rent the software with us or another cloud-based provider that does this for the case in general, and you wouldn't necessarily need to have it all the time. For security, if you run your own software, you're maintaining your own security with your people. If you use a web-based solution, the hosting provider will maintain encryption, security procedures, certifications, data centers, etc. Support. Either if you have your own software, you're doing this yourself with your people. Although sometimes software companies can call or log in to your LAN and help you with things. And web-based one, of course, the hosting provider maintains that. Remote access for the installed software, you're either sometimes just using it within the office, within the firewall of your LAN, or you may access with remote access software like Citrix to get to it from when you're out of the office. And the web-based ones are web-based, and you can usually access anywhere. Cost for installed software, it's going to be your licensing, your servers, your maintenance, and probably the biggest cost is personnel cost to maintain. And the web-based ones vary on how they do it. They can be generally charged on some combination of the gigabytes hosted, fixed charges, and user fees. And another issue can come up is whether this is reimbursable from the client or recoverable as a litigation cost. And with installed software, it's usually not. And with web-based, it just depends, depending on the situation, how it's used, and the jurisdiction. But that's a possibility. Next, we'll talk about some issues that come up with this. One is loading it. So if you receive one of these TIFF productions, it needs to be loaded up into the software, and that'll be a combination of the load file, the data files organized in various folders, and they can be across different disks, often broken down by the individuals, the custodians, or the individuals where you collected it from. These load files need to be validated, and sometimes, surprisingly often, they have some amount of corruption in them to be checked to see if there's proper OCR text, if there's the right number of text files to the images, and some of these ones that have millions of pages, that can be a big deal. And this can be handled internally with somebody that has a good degree of expertise in it, litigation support professionals, or in time, or vendors will do this as well as part of getting data sets loaded. One issue that comes up or to consider is searching, and I want to make you aware there's interestingly, the searchable text that one gets from extracting whatever text could come out of a native file, a Word or an Excel document, or what you could get from a TIFF or a PDF that was made of that is not exactly the same. And that's because the process of making a TIFF or a PDF is basically a virtual print, as if you were to take the document and print it on a printer. And because of that, there will be some things that when you make a paginated image like this that don't make it through the print. So examples would be things that are hidden sheets on a worksheet. If somebody had applied a filter to a worksheet, a lot of the data wouldn't be showing. There's certainly examples of in people intentionally trying to hide data, but there's a lot of data that can be lost just from day in, day out, common ways of maintaining data. Speaker's notes on PowerPoints are some examples of things like that. There's also things that will show up in the TIFF, PDF, or paginated view of a document that won't show up on the native. And examples of that would be anything that would benefit from OCR. So if you had a Word document and there was an embedded image that had some text in it, that would OCR and become searchable on the TIFF or PDF version, but it wouldn't on the original native. So, you know, it's not that one's better than the other. They both will get different amounts of data. It's an interesting issue that a lot of people aren't very aware of. One approach that we follow is dual indexing, which is to have the search index bring together the text from both versions and make them both available for searchability to get the best result. Let me go through a couple other things you would want to address with search and review. In the system, once you have your data loaded, typically you'll be running searches to find information to get ready for depositions and the case. And there will be often text and hit highlighting in systems so that you can get the text and then jump right to it in the document. And then search capability in general requires that it be accurate, fully index everything, and be pretty easy to use. There are a number of advanced search systems that some systems have, concept search, fuzzy and stemming, which allows for some OCR errors, Boolean searching like you're used to in Westlaw or LexisNexis is common as well in systems. I mentioned that there's different versions of documents, and document review systems often will give you a way to see those easily. Sometimes they will allow you to download them. Sometimes you can see them in different panes. Sometimes they're not accessible. It just depends on the system. And here's some examples of the different views that one can have of one document. Then you see the tabs along the top of the screen capture here. So the hits often will come off of search and give highlighting like was shown on the last slide. The original will be the native version of the document if that's available and has been part of the load file. The HTML will be the text that could be extracted from the native. The page and the PDF view in our version is what would have come in from the image file, and we automatically convert to PDF for viewing, which is why this says PDF, not TIFF, but it's based on the TIFF. The page view, which you see one at a time. Then there's text view, which show the text of the OCR of the images that came in from the TIFF. And the text view and the HTML view both go into the index. And there's an annotated view that would be for, you can annotate documents for depositions, and if there had been a redacted one on this one, you could have a redacted version as well. So, in the system, you've got over a half dozen different versions of the same document, and that's what modern litigation database systems do. This next field just shows how you would do coding, and there's when you're getting ready for depositions and for motion practice, you want to go through and look at the documents and code them in different ways so that you can set up custom fields and around different issues such as damages. You can assign reviewers, etc., and that allows you to filter and sort and work with subsets of the data efficiently. This next one shows how you can do kind of workflow that you can look at documents and go from one to the other with a save and next and show the different issues that you're working with. And the bottom is a table view showing filtering of some of the documents that have been marked to associate with various issue coding that's been set up in this sample case. Here's another view of the same thing. Another issue in systems is often you want to code a lot of things at one time. You may do a search result, or you may somehow look at documents and you don't want to go through by hand and code one document at a time. So this shows how in modern systems you can do this at one time, so that so over 6,000 documents are going to be coded with one click of the button with what's called a MultiDoc edit. So that's really important too, to save time and speed the coding and review. Next question is, how do you get the documents out of the system if you need them? They can be usually be downloaded one at a time, but you often want to bring a lot out quickly to get ready for a deposition or for a conference. Generally, you do not want to bring these out as TIFFs because they come out as a single page without breaks and are difficult to work with afterwards. So we usually recommend PDFs, which our system and other systems can do, and you can bring out the native version as well. So here shows setting up a briefcase creation. You have different options in how you name and the documents, and whether you want to show dates on them or not, control numbers, and you bring those out and then get notification and then download them and print them if needed. Talk a little bit about timelining and case participants. This is when you're getting ready for deposition fact witnesses. You want to jump down a level from the documents and get into the facts and issues of the case and who's associated with it. So the first step is organizing just who the case participants are, which are the parties, deponents, fact witnesses, organizations, and showing what the relations are. And that's of course an important part of understanding your case. Once you have these, and these can be linked into your evidence and the case issues, into the documents, then timelining is very important. So here, facts can be created out of documents and then associated with issues, and then dynamic timelines are generated from that. So that's helpful and important on getting your arms around the case and what happened, and how much testimony and evidence is contradictory or not, or are there holes, etc. Another thing to do is to assign documents to deponents for getting ready for deposition, so that this can be done with editing, with coding and MultiDoc editing. Here's another view of a timeline, showing a little different view of it, and here are the document links. So the timeline, each fact can have multiple documents associated with it. So you would set up a fact either off of a document, or you could start with a fact and then find documents later to determine to what extent the factual assertion is being supported by the evidence. Here's a one showing another view of facts. So over on the right pane is facts that have come out of a transcript from a deposition, and they can be time bound, and on the left there's highlighting on the deposition. So in our system, and you can pull the facts that you want out, highlight them, and in a deposition transcript you would hope to have many facts, and they might be in different parts of the document, of course, as you would circle around back to some issues sometimes, and then you can take these all out as facts and have them time sorted, which is much more helpful than taking them in just the linear page by page order that was in the deposition. And then once you have all these facts, you can get these ready for motion practice. Often that comes up very quickly at the end of the depositions, and it's important to be able to find and get back to the evidence very quickly. So if this has all been set up, then you can filter, you can code and filter and find which evidence is really material and which one has been contested, and then get back to the original references in the transcripts or the other documents that are as part of the case. And then here's another view of filtering, to where you'd set up for your dispositive motions to determine which facts are important for that, and then to be able to pull the information and the copies of the documents out of the system. So, well, that is going to wrap things up for us. I will turn this back over to Stu, and I want to thank everybody again for attending. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Gene. Looks like we've run over time a little bit here. We've got a couple questions we did not get to, but we will follow up with those via email. If any other questions do come up, please feel free to contact me at my email address on the screen. That's svandusen@lexbe.com. Thank you all very much for attending today, and we will be sending out a URL link to the recorded version of the presentation, as well as a link to the slide deck to all who registered. Keep an eye out for next month's eDiscovery webinar. The invitation should be there. Thank you very much, and have a great day. Bye.